Hello, you guys. It's Dr. Kathleen Nash with Total Transformation. And in this video, I'm going to go over what you need to do to have a successful retrain phase. So in order to get started, I want to remind you of a couple things first. The first thing that I want to remind you of that's different about our program versus programs that you've done before is the influence on changing the biochemistry that's been damaged in your body to get your body to behave in a normal way under normal calorie levels. So just as a brief refresher, we're going to remind you that for most people that are clients in my program, 30% of the reason that your body is accumulating extra body fat comes from calories in versus calories out. And that's only 30% of the issue, okay? This is going to become critical in a minute. 10% of the reason that the body is accumulating body fat comes from genetics, meaning you can't control if you're a man or a woman, you can't control what age you are, you can't control if you're black, if you're white, if you're yellow. That's just things that are out of your control. But the good news is it's only 10%. 60% of the reason that we accumulate body fat in our country, specifically United States of America, comes from the biochemistry, meaning things have been changed or altered in how the body functions, and the symptom of those changes in function is accumulation of body fat. It is important to understand that this 60% overrides calories in, calories out, meaning that if you don't do things specifically to fix the 60%, you can in fact eat less and move more and still not burn body fat. And it's the retrain phase that is going to prove to you exactly that, because in the retrain phase, we're going to take your calories all the way up to the goal calories that I give you. And if you're really good, you'll take them even higher. And you're not going to gain any body fat. In fact, you'll still struggle to keep weight on. So let's go ahead and start talking about why we do a retrain phase. So the goals of the retrain phase: one, we want to test metabolic correction. Am I on the right track? Have I found all of your metabolic factors? Is your body losing weight? Are we losing it at the projected 3 to 7 pounds a week? Remember, that is going to weigh critically on whether or not you are being compliant with the program. If you're not doing the program properly, if you're not eating the way I'm telling you to, if you're leaving things if you're leaving things out, like under eating, or if you're substituting and eating things that are off the plan, you completely nullify your body's ability to lose weight and get to its goal weight, because again, you're messing with the 60%, right? So anyway, we're testing metabolic correction. We also want to raise the calories back to normal levels while staying under the ceiling weight. So the reason that we do a retrain phase is because whether you knew it or not, when you first started out with me, you had or were eating a high normal number of calories, whatever those calories were to get you to the weight that you were currently sitting at. And then suddenly, I take you down to a diet level of calories, a much lower amount than the body is used to receiving. And this big arrow that you're seeing right here, this big pink arrow, represents weight loss. It's a big arrow, right? So the body's going to start losing weight, but the body very quickly figures out that you are not feeding it the same number of calories that it's used to getting. So it's kind of like putting the body on a pay cut, where maybe the body's used to making 100,000 a year, and then suddenly you're making it make 60,000 a year. So when you reduce the number of calories that it receives, the body very quickly lowers the calories it burns to match it. It usually happens within the first 30 to 35 days. It especially happens if you are sedentary, if you are not exercising or doing anything to stimulate the musculoskeletal system or the cardiovascular system, then it's definitely going to happen within the first 30 days. Just like you would modify your spending habits if suddenly your paycheck was cut, the body's going to do the same thing, right? So, but we think, well, gosh, I go on a diet specifically to get my body to go into those reserves and burn them off. Why is my body doing that? Well, think about it with you. You do the same thing. If I come to you after a 40% pay cut and I say, hey, don't change your spending habits. Don't reduce how much money you're spending. You've got equity in your home. You've got savings accounts. You've got 401ks. You've got money stored up. You've got your kids' college funds. Just liquidate it and spend it, right? Chances are you wouldn't go into those reserves unless you absolutely had to, unless you had no other choice. The body is exactly the same. The body sees the accumulation of its body fat as a survival mechanism, as a way for it to last a long time when food is not available. So it will use it, but it's going to very quickly try to adapt to use as little as possible. So because of this, after 30 to 35 days, stalls, slow weight loss, or no weight loss is common. And you guys have probably seen that in your reduce phase. As you get near the end of the 30 days, you're working just as hard. So now we're here. You're working just as hard, but the weight loss has dropped dramatically. So it's in just this particular phase that we decide that we're going to do two things. We're going to start raising those calories back up to normal levels between 2,000 and 3,000 calories a day. This is going to accomplish two things. It will retrain the body to hold your weight loss at normal calorie levels, and it recreates a high burn rate. It makes your body burn a lot of calories again every day, so that if you need to lose more body fat, you've got a big deficit again, okay? If you keep your calories low and you keep trying to push it, can you see that you're going to work really, really hard, but get little to no return? So those are the two reasons that we do the retrain phase. We want to retrain the body to hold that weight, eating normal calories, and we want to recreate a high calorie burn rate so that if you're going to go into a lose weight phase again, your body will respond well. Now, in order to raise the calories properly, a couple things have to be done. First of all, we're going to start at 1,500 calories a day. Okay, so that's the starting weight. And every 3 days, you're going to raise the calories by 75 calories if you're a woman, 100 calories if you're a man, until you reach your goal calorie number. So let's go over that. Let's say that you're a woman, right? And I'm going to give you a calorie goal. Let's say that your calorie goal is 2,000 calories per day. That means that day 1 to 3 on Retrain, you'll eat 1,500 calories a day. Day 4 through 6, 1,575. Remember, this is if you are a woman. If you are a man, it would be from 1,500 to 1,600. Day 7 through 9, 1,650 calories a day, right? And you're going to keep doing that until you hit whatever goal that I've set for you. Okay? The reason we bring it up slowly is because it's like stoking a fire. If you had a small campfire and you suddenly put a big log on it, you'll put the fire out. So if I have a small fire and I want to create a big fire, I don't throw a huge amount of fuel, which would be the wood, on there. I give it a little bit of fuel at a time. I give it kindling. I give it twigs. I give it leaves. I give it a little bit of branches. I give it paper. And if I do that a little bit again and again, suddenly I'm going to create, not suddenly, but over time, I'm going to create this huge fire. And that's trick number 1, or the first step to raising your calories back to normal levels. You must raise your calories slowly. Okay. Now, if at whatever time you go over your ceiling weight, that's another thing I've given you. So in your Retrain package, I told you that there's a certain weight that your body can raise back up to, but it can't go over it, right? That's called your ceiling weight. If you go over the ceiling weight, what your body's telling you, so let's say that we keep going here, right? And then you raised it to 1725, and then you raised it to 1825, let's say. And let's say at 1,825 calories, your body goes over the ceiling weight. You went over the number that I said was okay. That day, what your body is telling you is right now, all I can handle is 1825. I can't even handle that. I'll go over. I can handle 1725, but I can't handle 1825. So that day, you're going to do either a steak day, an apple day, or you're going to do an egg day. One of those three, whichever one you like the best, that day, you're going to do that. That will drop the weight back below the ceiling. And then the next day, you will pick a number between where you were last successful and where the body failed and went over the ceiling weight. So in this example, something between 1725 and 1825. So I would probably do something like 1790 calories a day. And then I'm going to do that for 3 days. And then after 3 days, I'm going to raise it again, right? So this is how you modify raising your calories depending on the feedback that you're getting from the body. That's the first step. All right. Now, the second step is what you use to raise the calories. So the type of food that you eat is important. On the days that you raise your calories, so every third day, you want to raise your calories with fat. And I know that seems crazy and that seems counterintuitive, but just stick with me here. Make sure that you listen carefully. Insulin is one of the main components when it comes to fat storage. Insulin, I've been talking about it with you guys for the last month, all my emails, all my blog posts, my Instagram posts, everything that I send you talks about this hormone. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. And for most of my clients, they've been eating the wrong types of food for too long. It made them gain weight, and they've gained weight and held extra weight for a while. So as a result, their body needs a lot of insulin every time they eat to do the job of breaking the food down and storing it. So for most of my clients, insulin goes too high and insulin lasts too long. And that is called insulin resistance. And it's projected now that 1 in 3 Americans are insulin resistant, meaning they're on the path to type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, certainly weight gain and obesity, okay? So when we raise the calories, we raise it with fat. Why? Because certain foods make insulin show up at certain rates. So if insulin is high, then we gain fat. We store body fat. If insulin is low, then we burn body fat. So the name of the game in Retrain is that or whenever, as long as you want to be in a burn fat mode, insulin must be low. So we're going to give insulin an arbitrary number, just a fake number to help you understand the principle, between 0 to 100. And then we're going to break the food groups down into 3 categories. The first one is going to be carbohydrate, and specifically the gas or the gassy carbohydrates, okay? So I've sent videos to you over the reduce phase where I've shown you other people's food logs or whatever, and I've talked about the gassy carbohydrates, but the gassy carbohydrates is an acronym. It stands for grain, alcohol, sugar, and starch. These foods in particular in the carbohydrate category will raise insulin to 100, the highest, okay? So these are the foods that are going to tell your body to store fat. The next category is protein. And for a lack of a better example, protein for the most part means animals. That's going to be any kind of bird, chicken, turkey, pheasant, duck. That's going to be any kind of red meat. So that's going to be cow. That's going to be buffalo. That's going to be bison, right? Pork. It's also going to be fish and eggs, stuff like that. So animals, okay? Animals or protein category also makes insulin respond, but not as bad. Carbohydrate, the gassy carbohydrates really take it high. Protein takes it up about half of normal carbohydrate. And then the last category is your fat category. So that's going to be things like oils, nuts, seeds, olives, avocado, your dairy categories, eggs, cheese, butter, sour cream, heavy whipping cream, right? Those kinds of foods. And fatty meats, salmon, bacon, sausage, fatty cuts of red meat, dark meat on a bird, okay? Insulin does not respond at all to fat. And that would make sense because, again, remember, if insulin is low, the body burns fat. So it would make sense that when the body eats fat, it also does not trigger insulin. So the name of the game when it comes to raising your calories and the name of the game when it comes to not storing body fat is the more fat you eat, the more fat you burn. The more you step on the gas, the more you widen your ass. Okay, if you can kind of remember that, the more fat you eat, the more fat you burn, the more you step on the gas, the more you widen your ass. Will help you remember what foods you want to steer clear from if burning fat or maintaining a low weight or doing it easy is something that you're interested in, okay? Carbohydrates raise insulin the most. Proteins raise insulin by half of what carbs do. Fats do not raise insulin at all, okay? So now that you have the ground rules, we're gonna go over the type of foods that you're going to eat for the retrain phase. My retrain phase diet foods, or the foods on your program, are the same for everybody. Retrain is the same for everybody. What changes is your calorie goals and your ceiling weights, okay? But the foods are the foundation foods of what you should be eating in order for you to lose weight, to effortlessly maintain your weight, to keep your muscle, right? And to help reverse diseases like cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. So let's go through what the foods are, okay? So throughout the retrain phase, you're not going to take the metabolic drops. If you have any of the big supplements left, the big bottles, take those until they're gone. But the smaller metabolic drops, either metabolic drops or metabolic X, you don't take those during retrain. Start by eating a minimum of 1,500 calories per day. Now we know why. Raise to your target calorie level following my protocol handout. Now we know why, okay? Eat all 3 meals introducing fats and oils. Now we know why. Fats don't raise insulin, but not sugar and starches. Now we know why. That makes insulin raise the most. I still want you to weigh every day and record. If you weigh below your ceiling weight, you're fine. Keep raising the calories. If you go over the ceiling weight, then you're either going to do a steak day, an apple day, or an egg day. If your body loses weight on retrain, like if it's keep going down, that's not ideal. We don't want that. It means your metabolism is responding really well in terms of burning calories, and we want to raise the calories faster. So if you are a woman and you're eating 75 calories more every 3 days and the body's losing weight, take it up to 100. And if you're a man, take it up to 125 or 150, okay? Now, on the eating plan, you can eat any meats that you want. You can have most vegetables and fruits. I'm going to outline it. Cook with fats and oils. Now we know why. Eat salad dressing on your salads. You can mix your salads. You can mix your vegetables now. The kind of salad dressing that you want to have is the fat-based salad dressing. That's things like the full-fat ranch. That's Caesar. That's blue cheese, okay? That's your own kind of oil and vinegar mixes. Do not eat vinaigrettes. They're loaded with sugar. Thousand Island, loaded with sugar. Catalina, French, loaded with sugar. Those are out. Fat-based ones are in. Foods that are not allowed during the retrain phase. So remember we said gas, grain, alcohol, sugar, starch, right? So foods that are not allowed: dried fruits, beets, corns, yams, parsnips, potatoes, all kinds, including sweet. Why? It's either a grain and alcohol, a sugar, or a starch. Fruits that have been processed with sugar, that's obvious. Rutabagas, that's a starch. Don't eat that. Starchy beans, that's things like red, kidney, pinto, black, northern, chickpea. Those are all starch. But you can have edamame, which is an Asian bean. It's a soybean, right? So that's fine. Foods that are cautionary during the retrain phase, meaning bring them in slow, watch the scale, see if your body gains, okay? So that's going to be things like melons, grapes, mangoes, bananas, pomegranates, and raisins. Why? They're higher sugar fruits, so they might trigger a weight gain. Most of the rest of the fruits are pretty much all fine, but these can trigger a weight gain. Artichokes, okra, peas, and pumpkins, sometimes for some people, they can cause a weight gain. So just watch them, bring them slow. Squash, most squash for the most part is okay. By far the best one is spaghetti squash. So a common meal that I like to have, not just in retrain, but often, is I will have 6 or 7 ounces of cooked spaghetti squash. I will put fettuccine Alfredo on top of that spaghetti squash. Why? Because it's a fat. I will have an Italian sausage. Why? Because it's a fatty meat. I will put cheese on that Alfredo sauce. Why? Because that's a fat. And I eat a big old plate of that, and the body doesn't care because it's not signaling insulin to respond very high. Cottage cheese, especially 4% cottage cheese, totally fine. The rest of the cheese and dairy, if you are lactose intolerant, be careful with it. If you are not lactose intolerant, start bringing it in. The eggs, full fat dairy, not skim milk, not 2%, not 4%, whole milk, half and half. Heavy whipping cream, sour cream, butter, cheeses, all the cheeses, okay? That can all come in. Coconut seed is totally fine. Flaxseed is totally fine. The rest of the nuts and seeds, you want to track them, and we're going to talk about how to track them, but you want to track them because they're calorie dense, but they're very, very good for, especially on the days that you have to raise your calories, they're very, very good. The best ones to have during retrain phase are Brazil nuts, pecans, macadamia. Those are the 3 best, right? These are the best. The ones that aren't so good, that's going to be almonds, cashews. For whatever reason, they can trigger problems. So you ideally want to be eating these during retrain phase, okay? Wine is occasionally allowed with the meal if you're an alcohol drinker, or a hard alcohol, like 1 to 2 ounces of something like rum, whiskey, gin, vodka, soju, sake, something like that, okay? So these are the foods that you're gonna be eating for the next 3 weeks on retrain, okay? Now, in here I mentioned a protocol. All the explanation that I gave you in this video has also been sent to you on the retrain phase protocol. So it's written down for you as well. Okay, so make sure you read through that. The second page is an example of how you raise the calories and what to do if the body goes over its calories. Okay, so these numbers might be different than what I've given you, but they're an example of what you want to do. Okay, the final thing that I'm going to show you, actually one more thing that I'm going to show you, is I'm also including in the package that I sent through your email recipes for weight loss. So these are foods that you use during the retrain phase just to give you some creative ideas on how you can make it interesting, how you can add more variety, what you can do. I will also be sending you recipes and ideas through your email personally that give you things that are more dessert style, things like cheesecake, things like cookies, things like soup, stuff like that, so that you can start practicing how to make foods that taste really good, that remind you of things like cakes and cookies and this and that, but don't trigger a weight gain. And then the final thing is that I sent to you is the MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal for the 3 weeks that you are on retrain is going to be what you will use to track your calories. We don't have a lot of time in this video. The main thing I want to do is get you the concept of retrain. If you have any questions about how to set up your MyFitnessPal account, whether it's on your smartphone or whether it's on your desktop, make sure you read through this. If you still have questions, by all means, contact us or email us, and we will set up a private session to help walk you through how to do MyFitnessPal. All right. So that is retrain in a nutshell. Remember, everything that I've said here in this video has also been sent to you via email, right? All the handouts have been provided to you. By all means, watch this video more than once so that if you have any questions, it's your nice go-to that you can go back to. Remember, since you are tracking your foods for the next 3 weeks with MyFitnessPal, you do not need to send me food sheets on a weekly basis. I want you to get used to using MyFitnessPal so that eventually you become independent of me. You don't rely on me because you understand how to do it, how to get to the goal weight, and how to stay there. If you have any questions, make sure that you let me know. But otherwise, have a great one, and I can't wait to hear about what your progress was in the next 3 weeks. Also, please know that when we restart, if we're going to restart a reduce phase after this retrain phase, the very first question that I'm going to ask you is, did you get your calories up to the goal? If you do not get your calories up to the goal number, I will extend the retrain phase. It is that critical that you get those calories up to those numbers. So again, if you have any questions after reading the material and watching the video, please reach out to us. Have a great day.